Harvey's Hot Takes back with Bryan Hayes, and we've got to start with this Sidney Crosby deal because we talked to Bryan about the potential of Sidney re-signing in Pittsburgh, and he caused a bit of a furor in the Pittsburgh area, suggesting that he would like Sid to maybe go play for a contender instead of the Penguins, because we're assuming the Penguins might not be a contender over the course of this deal. So, Bryan, after hearing that Crosby settled on Pittsburgh, he wants to stay there. Presumably, he'll end his career there. What were your initial thoughts on this deal?
Oh, I hate it. I really, really hate it, Jay. I want nothing to do with sitting in Pittsburgh. I am not going to move off that position. I'm not doing it. I guess I'm happy for him. I guess it's his career. It's his life. I wish he would take my opinion into consideration more, but clearly he did not. It's an incredible deal for the Penguins. It's an amazing deal if you're a Pittsburgh Penguin fan. You've been so lucky. Like, can you imagine if you're a Penguins fan and you're in your 50s or 60s and your whole life you got to watch Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr and Ron Francis and Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin? Like, what an incredible run as a hockey fan. You can't ask for anything better, and it does say a lot about Sid. I mean, obviously, I'm being facetious. I would love to see him move on. I don't assume that they won't be competitive. I know they won't be competitive. I am a full believer that Penguins team is nowhere close to being a cup contender, Jay. Maybe they put some pieces together and sneak into the playoffs at some point over the next 3 years, and we know he will be a Penguin for at least the next 3 years. But it's just a testament to who he is, you know, as a player, as a leader, as a committed member of that community down there in Pittsburgh, and someone that wants to do what Mario Lemieux did, which is spend every single second of his career as a Penguin. And when you've made as much money as he has, and you've had as many accolades as he has had, it allows you to basically write your own ticket. And Kyle Dubas and the Penguins are incredibly fortunate because he still plays like an $11 million player. That's who he is. Like, if he was starting his career, if this was his second contract, and you look back in the last 3 years he's played, he'd be signing for 11.5, 12 million a year
100%.
on an 8-year deal. That's who he is. That's how great of a player he still is. He's still one of the 12 or 15 best players in the game. Yet he's superstitious, and he wants other guys to stick around, and he wants the Penguins to be a successful franchise. So 2 years at 8.7 is just a knock it out of the park deal for the Pens, and he's going to leave there with every team record. He's won Cups, he's won Conn Smythes, he's won Hearts. He's everything you'd ever want in an athlete. And honestly, a lot of it is I'm just jealous of Penguins fans because they're so lucky that they have Sidney Crosby.
I think plenty of fans around the league are jealous of Penguins fans for good reason. Let's move on to the NFL, Bryan. Kansas City Chiefs are now 2-0 following a hard-fought victory over the Cincinnati Bengals on Sunday. Once again, this team just finds ways to get it done, right, Bryan? I mean, is there anything you've seen through the first 2 weeks of this NFL season that would lead you to believe that the Chiefs are not the team to beat this season?
No, I think it's very defined. It's maybe more defined than at any point during the Mahomes era, Jay. And it's not only about what the Chiefs are doing, but it's also about what other powerhouse teams around the NFL are not doing. You mentioned the Ravens. They're 0-2. The Bengals are 0-2. Those are two teams within the AFC I thought could take a run at them this year, or at least would be in the running. And maybe that still happens. We're only 2 weeks in. But it's on those teams to chase down the pace car. And I think what's terrifying through 2 weeks is that pace car, the Kansas City Chiefs, is faster than it's probably ever been. Right? Like they have an elite defense, they have an elite coach, and they got the best quarterback. When you have a quarterback, a coach, and a defense that is head and shoulders collectively above everyone else, you've got the best team. And there was no Super Bowl hangover. It's just incredible. Like you said, they didn't even play that great against Cincinnati, but they find a way to win. And I think they're only going to get better and better and better. And that's the beauty of the consistency that they have there with the head coach, with the coordinators, with the quarterback, with the tight end and Travis Kelce. Everything comes up Kansas City, and it's on the rest of the league, not only the division, the conference, but the whole league, to find out who can possibly punch back. Right? Buffalo's off to a 2-0 start. Houston 2-0. The Chargers 2-0 within their own division. And I'm pulling for that. And I was pulling for that before the season came along. It's not that I don't appreciate the greatness of the Chiefs. I do. I just don't want to see it be so easy. I don't want to be in a position in September where I sit here and say, I don't know who's going to stop them. And the truth is, mid-September, I'm saying that. I'm already saying, who's going to stop them? So I'm pulling for Buffalo. I'm pulling for Houston. I'm pulling for the Chargers. I want to see the Ravens and Bengals get back into the race. And that says nothing about the teams in the NFC because they've already won 2 straight Super Bowls. They're in the driver's seat through 2 weeks. They're clearly the best team, best quarterback, best coach, great defense. They are loaded right now, and they look like they're prepared for history this year.
The commissioner of your fantasy football league is not feeling as good after 2 weeks of the NFL season. Pierre LeBrun, noted Cowboys fan. Here's the question for you, Bryan. Are the Dallas Cowboys, in your mind, closer to the team that looked dominant against Cleveland in week 1 or the team that got absolutely stomped by the Saints in week number 2?
I think it's closer to week number 1. I do. Obviously, that was embarrassing, and you don't see that much out of the Cowboys. Generally, they hold on to home turf very well. They generally play really well in Dallas. That defense is elite in Dallas, and it was the complete opposite. That was embarrassing, and it sucked for Pierre LeBrun because he was down there. Pierre LeBrun was in the building watching that, and he had apparently great seats, and it was really, really ugly. But I do think they're still the best team in that division. I do think that they're a team that's going to have to get over some controversy that, or at least some storylines that were hanging over them that maybe they just got through in week 1, and Cleveland was so bad and Deshaun was so bad. But Dak Prescott had life-altering news just before that game. And maybe it didn't dawn on him until he was flying back from Cleveland. CeeDee Lamb just signed that contract, what was it, a week or so before that game? Maybe he went out there, did what he was supposed to do. They flew home to Dallas, and it was like, okay, we got to reset here. And they couldn't find a way to get back on the tracks. They are the biggest soap opera in the NFL, and it's incredible. I love talking about the Cowboys because you either love them or you hate them. Right? There's no apathy with the Cowboys. There's always one end of the spectrum or the other. And the beauty of the Cowboys is they always offer you enough to look at them both two different ways. Like you said, are they week 1? Are they week 2? The biggest Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in the NFL. But I do think they're closer to week 1. I do. I think Dak is a really good regular season quarterback. I think they have enough weapons on offense, and that defense is still really good. That was pathetic the way they played on Sunday, but I think they're closer to week 1. I still think they're a double-digit win team. I think they make the playoffs. I think they probably win their division, but there will be more ups and downs. If we know anything about Jerry Jones, anything about the Cowboys, Jay, you know it. They are going to be a roller coaster. They're going to give you reasons to turn on them, and ultimately it's going to come down to who they are in the playoffs. And the beauty of it is now that Dak's been paid, that's going to be a storyline. If it doesn't work, it's why did you pay him? And Mike McCarthy, is he going to be here long term? It's never quiet. It's never going to slow down. It was crazy, the difference between week 1 and week 2. But if you're asking me who I think they're closer to, I would still say week 1, that win against the Browns. And I think at the end of the season, the Cowboys will be a playoff team.
They are always interesting, just like this guy, Bryan Hayes. You know, Harvey's has been serving up burgers to Canadians for 65 years. This guy, my friend Bryan Hayes, has been rocking high-collared shirts with 2 buttons undone since 1983. Thanks, buddy.
Hot Takes is presented by Harvey's. Customize your burger and get it delivered from our app to your door. Harvey's, it's a beautiful thing.